Cyber Reapers! Hello, Cyber Reapers! So, tonight or today, whenever you are, I would like to talk about a book. Actually, many books. Usually it's one book. This time I'm doing a end of the year special where I cover my favorite books of the entire year. So, because this is the last upload I will have before the new year, don't worry, I'll continue right into January. As usual, uploading once a week. And I am so happy that I actually stuck with this channel for a whole year, because this, if I remember right, I started uploading the first Friday of January this year, 2025. So this channel is like 1 year old, just about. And when I started it, I really didn't know if there was going to be an audience at all. I haven't been marketing this. I haven't been like advertising it on social media or anything. I'm just kind of releasing these into the void and hoping that these videos find their audience. And I mean, so far, yeah, I mean, people have been engaging in the comments a little bit, liking the videos, subscribing. I think we have about 40 subscribers now. That's super cool. That's like, I can't imagine 40 people being in the same room with me and being like, yes, we are subscribed to your work, because we like, I guess, hearing you ramble about books, you know? And that's super cool. Thank you so much for being here. Whether you are subscribed or new, or you are just like listening to a lot of my videos but aren't subscribed, I've been there. I like doing that. I like checking out multiple videos by the same creator before deciding whether I'm like, do I want to subscribe? So I get it. And just I'm so hyped that I've been pretty consistent. There have only been a few weeks this year that I had to skip an upload because of travel, or I think illness maybe one time, or maybe it was like my hands, something. And just, I'm pretty pleased that I've actually stayed consistent. This channel has helped me a lot with just really staying on top of reading, because I really want to keep my goal of reading a book a week. Just about, I really want to stick to it, and I think it wouldn't be possible without like this channel encouraging me to uplift and share books that I find exciting. So this has really been an awesome experience for me, so thank you so much for being here. And yeah, I guess this is my first video of like covering the past year of books, so it's new for me. Maybe we'll do this in future years, we'll see. Right now though, I'm planning on essentially just going over the top book of each month. That's kind of my rough plan, and I might include like a couple of honorable mentions, because there are some months where there were like 2 books that like I thought were really close in tying for my favorite of the month. But I had to choose one for my newsletters, and that's where I like pick my top favorite book that I've read of each month, because I have a monthly newsletter. But I don't do that on here as much, so I figured, alright, let's just share my favorites, right? And so I'm pretty excited about that, but because there are, multiple books to this video, I'm gonna try to not go off into all kinds of tangents, to add to the runtime. I don't mean this to be an extra long video. I'm just hoping to kind of, touch on books that I've covered, because all of these are books that have videos that I've talked about. I think you understand what I'm saying, but all of these books that I'm talking about, I've elaborated more on in other videos where it's like about that book. So if you want to know more about like what I was thinking at the time of reading it, then I would say like go back to those videos. But this video is like after a while of me not having read the books, and still how I feel about them now, you know? So, hopefully this will be fun, you know? And, yeah, oh, I forgot to mention too, just like, I hope you're having a good end of the year, and that you're having happy holidays if you celebrate any holidays around now. There's a big bunch of them in the winter, so I feel like a lot of people are celebrating them, but it's fine if you're not. I'm actually not even, I'm filming this on Christmas, by the way, Christmas morning, technically. It's the middle of the night, it's like 1 a.m. or so it's technically Christmas Day, but it's also sort of Christmas night. Anyway, but I'm not celebrating until this Saturday, because my family doesn't celebrate it, the gift exchange part and stuff. We don't celebrate it on Christmas Day. We celebrate it, well, this year we're doing it 2 days after, because my nephew celebrates with us, and he's celebrating with his immediate family on Christmas, and then he's coming here for, he's flying here, so he's out of state, and he's coming here, so then we'll celebrate when he's here. But yeah, that gives me just a little extra time to prepare things. Right now my gifts are wrapped, but the trees are not up. We have 2 like medium-sized trees. Why 2? Because it's symmetrical with our fireplace and the 2 front windows. Yeah. But that's where I am in terms of the holidays. I hope that your holiday stuff is going well, or went well, depending on when you watch this. So let's get into it. Favorite books of the year. My favorites, I should say. So let's start with January. My January favorite book that I picked back in January 2025 was The Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson. Now, this one is a science fiction. It's got queer romance in there. The main characters are people of color and also queer. And it's a multiverse book, so it's got multiple dimensions, universes that you can hop between. But I found this one to be like a unique take. This book had a unique take on the multiverse. So this book essentially went the route of you can jump to other universes as long as your parallel self from that universe is dead. If you jump to another universe where that parallel self is still alive, good luck. Your body will not survive it, essentially. And so, in order to research these other worlds, this big tech company place hires a bunch of people who are in such horrible situations and circumstances most of the time that these people are dead in most other universes. And so these people can hop over to other universes, gather data and research, and then bring it back to that, universe that they came from. And just the plot felt really unique. It felt intense. I liked the ending. It all just felt very, I don't know, it felt very, poignant, maybe. I feel like I use the word poignant a little too much sometimes. I like the word, but like it really pungent maybe is a substitute that I can use here. Because this book really just like tackles a lot of dark subjects and themes without like it being so overwhelming, I guess, that you can't quite focus on each one. And the main character is really determined. She has a lot of grit, and I find myself rooting for her quite easily. So that's just like all of that wraps up to be a really nice, really powerful story for me. And yeah, I guess that's what I'll say about that book from what I can remember and everything. Yeah. I'm looking back through my February reads now. Oh, I read so many good books. Do I want to do honorable mentions? Probably. Because, yeah, February had a lot of hard-hitting books for me, and it was difficult to pick a favorite. So, February 2025, the favorite book that I ultimately picked was A Song of Salvation by Alicia Dow. Now, I read all three of the books that Alicia Dow wrote that are in the same universe, and A Song of Salvation is the third one. And I loved all three of the books. If I had to pick, though, it would be the third book was my favorite. So this book is a sci-fi book, and it's romance, and it's got a lot. It's got, aliens, it's got a war set in space involving Earth, and but it's not, I wouldn't consider it like a sci-fi war book or like sci-fi military. It's more focused on just kind of individuals who are in different positions in the war, I guess, or in the conflict. And there's magic that involves like music, and there's a lot. There's also queer romance. The main characters are people of color. They have a lot of different body types, and there's just there's just something so like comforting about the universe somehow. Not the war part, but just how accepting and welcoming all the characters are to each other. All the, good characters. And just, yeah, I loved all three of the books, but this one in particular was the culmination of all three of them. Because in the first two, it kind of sets up the conflict, and in the third book, the conflict is, it is here, it is at its height, and now everybody has to get involved. All the characters from all three books have to take on the ultimate threat and get the ultimate resolution to happen, And I really want more from this universe, even though it wrapped up very well. I just love it. So I think I'll have to reread it sometime. Yeah. I don't know if these books are considered a trilogy, by the way, or if they are like each standalones or things you could read standalone. I think you probably could. I made the mistake of reading the second book first and not realizing that I read it out of order. So I read the second book first, and then I think I read the third. No. I don't even remember the order I read it anymore. But it doesn't matter. I feel like you could probably read them out of order and still be fine. Like, I definitely was. So it's... Yeah, I just found all three books really amazing, but especially this one, A Song of Salvation. I'll also mention that the other two books are called... Hold on, I forget the first one exactly. I get the first and third confused. Okay. The Sound of Stars is the first book to read by Alicia Dow. And then The Kindred is the second book by Alicia Dow. And then the third book is A Song of Salvation. I'm sorry. A Song of Salvation. I told you I get the first and third mixed up. In terms of their title, at least. And I think I also do need to give a shout out to A Face for Picasso by Ariel Henley, because this was just such a powerful book. I didn't put it as my favorite for February just because I feel like A Song of Salvation just slightly beat it. Just slightly in terms of my favorites, but it was just such a good memoir. And it was just such a good memoir. I feel like if you're looking for a disability memoir, particularly from someone who has facial disfigurement, I highly recommend the book. It talks about her experiences growing up, and just makes a lot of really good points and conversation topics about identity, with, like, involving physical appearance, how other people perceive you versus how you perceive yourself, and how you perceive art as well, and beauty. Yeah, I highly recommend it. Also introduced me to how horrible Picasso is. I didn't know much about him, but he's horrible, so, yeah. All of that wrapped up in this one book. Highly recommend. Alright, so in contrast to February, March, I didn't actually get a lot of time to read, but I did enjoy reading Nerve by Jan Ryan. So this one, you might have seen the movie or known that there was a movie for this, who knows. It's quite different though, by the way. So in case you're wondering, the book and the movie are very different, especially like when you get around like the 25% mark. That's when things become extremely different. But I still think both are good. The book is, essentially there's this app that everybody's playing. It's Truth or Dare, but without the truth. So you do a bunch of dares to earn rewards. And you earn rewards, and the players who play kind of become like influencers, and the ones who get like the highest amount of points or do the highest amount of dares get invited to this kind of group dare thing where a group of people have to complete like a bunch of dares together, and it just gets kind of dangerous and unethical. So that's the book. We're not talking about the movie right now. That's the book. I feel like I think it did really well with just like pointing out how horrible people can be about people behind a screen. And as someone who wrote When Truth Cowers, which is kind of like, I use Nerve as one of my comp titles, as one of the books that I say like, hey, this is like Nerve meets Scream, you know. That's kind of When Truth Cowers, if you were to use different titles. Just especially with how people treat others behind a screen sometimes as just less than human. It's definitely similar in that sense, and it's also a thriller. So yeah, there's some similarities there that I quite enjoy. And what's funny is actually I didn't read the book until after I pretty much finished, or I didn't read Nerve until after I finished writing When Truth Cowers. So it was really neat seeing like the parallels, and I was going, oh wow, yep, that sounds pretty similar in the themes that it tackles. So April, my birth month, right? Let's get into the book for that. My favorite book of this month was Of Wolves and Stags by Ria Parisi. Now, I'd like followed Ria's account for a while before like finally going like, oh awesome, the book's out, let's get it. And I'm glad, because both glad that I read the book and also glad I'm following like their journey, you know. Just really is, I feel like, really powerful and important what they're doing. They're trying to like get more plus size main characters in fantasy, and so this book has a plus size main character in like this big like fantasy plot. There's a war going on, or like a conflict going on between humans and elves. There's maybe like a bit of morally gray everywhere in all the characters, sorta. There's queer romance, there's a lot of reveals, just kind of showing like, hey, I'm not sure what side the main character even should be on, you know? And I thought that was super cool. also, of course, just like the training scenes and stuff. I loved that the main character didn't just instantly become like a boss level fighter after like a few weeks of training. Like she definitely learned stuff, but she wasn't gonna just like suddenly take down somebody who's had years of training. So that was super like cool to just read something realistic like that. And then also like her trainer was like, hey, you don't have to like lose weight to know how to sword fight, like I'll teach you. Don't worry about it, you know? And that's just, I feel like that should be like the norm of understanding that you don't have to lose weight in order to like, well, to sword fight, to exercise, to really do anything physical. You don't have to lose weight to do anything. Well, I mean, I get that there are some really, really hyper-specialized things that are like weight dependent, I guess. But you can basically make almost anything work. Like any sort of activity or anything, regardless of your body type or size. And so I love that this book is addressing that. And now we get to May. Ooh. Okay, so apparently I read a lot of good books in May. The ultimate favorite that I ended up choosing was Don't Let the Forest In by C.G. Drews. And, I just read Hazelthorn, which is also by C.G. Drews. Literally, I read it last week. I just released the video on it. And, yeah, I love their writing. Their writing is so cool. It's so unique. It's just got this really, like, morbid, sometimes grotesque, morose vibe, and it's just super cool the way the descriptions are. It really does match with the botanical rot horror kind of vibe. So let's talk about Don't Let the Forest In, because I'll probably get to Hazelthorn in a bit. Don't Let the Forest In is about a couple of boys. They go to this boarding school. It's a horror book, and it's also got, you know, queer romance in it. And the main two boys start getting haunted and attacked by these, like, foresty monsters. And these foresty monsters appear to be the same creatures that one of the boys is, like, actively drawing. And so they're fighting the monsters they created. And so it mostly revolves around all of that. The reveals are so good, especially the ones that are right by the end of the book. It felt so, it felt gut-wrenching, especially involving the romance between the main two boys. I was just so hoping for a happy ending for them, and yes, the ending is good, so, but like, these books have me worried sometimes, you know. I don't know how they're gonna end up, and I look forward to more of C.G. Drew's writing because of that. I really don't know where the ending is actually gonna be. Yeah. But yeah, there's so much forest horror vibes, and also there are drawings of the creatures in the book, so that's pretty cool. For the sake of time, I am going to try to go a little quicker, especially because I do feel like I want to mention A Tempest of Tea by Hafsa Faisal. I also read this book in May. This is May, right? Yeah. In May of 2025. That one's like, it's a historical fantasy. It's got vampires and like a secret vampire society, and it's got a tea house that the main characters are trying to save from shutting down, and so they've got to put together a heist to break into the secret vampire society to steal a thing that's gonna like help them blackmail the government into keeping their tea house alive. That's essentially the plot, and it's great. There are a lot of reveals. The main characters are people of color. There's like, just, there's a lot of, I feel like there's a lot of fun world building. It feels like it's kind of like the gas lamps kind of historical fantasy, by the way, like with tea houses and cobblestone streets and like, feel like you can almost smell the tea from the pages sometimes with how it's described. That kind of feeling. It's really neat, and I look forward to reading the second book. I got the second one recently. We're gonna see where it goes. I'm curious. Especially at that ending. I was baffled. I had to look up what happened just to be certain I was understanding it properly. I was so aghast. June. Okay, I'm so glad that this book is the favorite, because I hesitated to mention for the previous month that I had reread Iron Widow. So in May, I reread Iron Widow by Jiren Zhao in preparation for reading my favorite of June, which was Heavenly Tyrant by Jiren Zhao. Now that's the second book of the series, it's ongoing, of the Iron Widow series. So, without giving too much away of what happens in the first book, let's just set up the premise and maybe just kind of a vague where they're going. So this is one of my absolute favorite series. I'll try not to gush about it too much. You can always watch the 2 videos I already made on these books for more gushing. But the Iron Widow series, there is a war between humans and aliens, and the humans, it's a sci-fi book with a retelling of China from long, long ago. It's even got reimagined versions of historical figures, such as the first female empress, who is the main character is kind of sort of vaguely based on or inspired from, maybe is a better way of putting it. And just oh, it's so great. Sci-fi set in the future. In this war between aliens and humans, the humans take the dead alien giant husks. These are giant aliens that have kind of armor around them, and so the humans will take that armor from aliens that they defeat, and the humans can kind of psychically connect with the armor once they're in it to be able to control this giant mecha, giant armor thing, and fight more aliens with it. And yeah, that's kind of the main thing. Now focusing on the main character, Zetian. She is enlisting to fight in this war, but the female fighters rarely make it. They rarely make it out of the first fight, because the male fighters are prioritized. It's a sexist society. The male fighters are prioritized, and because of the way the mechas are set up, usually it's the male mental force kind of sucks out all the mental force of the female fighter. There are male and female fighters in each of the giant mecha armor things. So Zetian isn't really planning on making it out of this alive, but she's joining because she wants revenge on the male fighter that essentially killed her sister. And things happen though where, turns out she actually has a stronger mental force than the guy who killed her sister, so she kills him in combat, and now the military's going, oh no, we have a female fighter who is more powerful than this powerful male fighter. What do we do with her? So yeah, and she becomes a fighter, and she's paired with somebody else, and lots of shenanigans happen. There's polyamory, which is super fun. I love that. And there are complex relationships, especially in the second book. But we'll get there. Actually, yeah, we'll just go ahead and go there now, because I'm not sure what else I can really do to describe the first book without getting into spoiler territory. So we get to the second book. Things have happened in and Satine finds that she is in a leadership position, and she's realizing, oh wow, it's kind of hard to lead, especially when, like, I went and destroyed a lot of the systems in place. So how do I actually rebuild a society? And to do so, she's working with allies who are, like, really, really horrible people. Well, it's debated. It's extremely morally gray. And I mean actually morally gray, you know? You find yourself questioning the morals of especially one person she's really close with, that she's working with, and she absolutely hates. And yet, she has a complicated relationship with him. It's so good. The second book steps things up quite a bit in the complexity of the relationships, and just providing an example of, like, hey, it's really hard to rebuild a society after it's been messed up so much. Yeah. Super, super cool of a book. Wow, I am looking forward to the next one, especially with the ending chapters. So, yeah, this book really stepped up. So let's look at July. We're halfway there. My favorite read from then was The Many Half-Lived Lives of Sam Sylvester by Maya McGregor. Yeah, so I ended up getting this book for my dad because I loved so much the dynamic between the main character and their father, with just how much, like, the father was, like, trying to, just really how much the father was trying to connect with the main character and be supportive and understanding of, like, the main character's quirks, essentially. And just, yeah, I really enjoyed this book. To start, it's a contemporary book. It has a mystery in it. In fact, it's a murder mystery. It's kind of wild. And the main character moves into a house with their father. The main character uses they, them pronouns. And also the main character is autistic. So the two move into this house that's been empty for a while, and they learn that the house was empty because, well, a person died in it, specifically a teenager. And originally it's just brushed off as a accidental death because the main character, the teenager who died there, was severely allergic to some kind of food. I think it was peanuts, but it was some kind of food, and they had an allergic reaction and died in that house. But Sam, our main character, doesn't feel like there's something quite right about that, and so the more that they kind of poke around the story and try to learn more about the teenager who died there, the more that Sam starts to notice, hey, there's kind of some missing gaps here. Maybe it's possible that this person did not accidentally die, that someone intentionally, planned it to happen. And so there's, in the midst of, like, Sam settling into this new community and new school, and making new friends, also a queer romance happening as well. Sam is also investigating what happened to this teenager. And so throughout this, it's really, I feel like the connections in this book are so strong, the relationships, especially between the main character and their dad, like, that felt like the strongest connection to me in the whole book, and I loved that. I don't know, it just felt like something about this book really resonated with me, and I'm not sure I can, like, pinpoint exactly what. Yeah. Okay, so this, August. Yeah, I haven't made the video yet about the book I read this week, but it's the companion book to the favorite from August, so let me talk about that. August, my favorite book. I got introduced to Sonora Reyes' writing, and I'm so glad that I did. Sonora Reyes is now one of my favorite authors. I've pretty much enjoyed every single book I've read from them so far. But yeah, this one is The Lesbiana's Guide to Catholic School. I get why it got so many awards. Yeah, it's super poignant. I absolutely love the main character, Yamilet. She's so bold. She's so, like, protective of her brother. She like tries so hard to be quote-unquote normal for the sake of, like, well, she's in the closet about being lesbian at the beginning of the book, and she is, well, you might guess it from the title, she's now enrolled in a Catholic school. And so it's a little bit, not really super condoned to be LGBT in that place. So she's not even out to her mother and also her father, but her father is kind of distanced because he was deported. And so our main, like, family group is Yamilet and her brother Caesar. Caesar, I think. I think the emphasis is on the E. But yeah, Yamilet, Caesar, and their mother. And so Yamilet is now going to Catholic school with her brother because her brother kept getting into fights at their previous school, so their mother scrounges up money and they go to Catholic school. And Yamilet is trying to make friends, trying to appear straight, but it gets a little difficult when she gets a crush on an openly lesbian girl who she befriends in that school. So it's a contemporary queer romance. It's got so much in the way of, like, relationships. The comedic timing is great on, like, a lot of the scenes as well, especially between Yamilet and her brother. The way that she has to hide being lesbian, the way she's got also kind of, like, coming to terms with being Catholic, but also being LGBT, and also she's one of the few brown students in school, or Latina students in school, and she's got, like, a lot of problems and a lot of internal turmoil, and she's afraid of shame or any sort of, like, being looked down upon by other people, and she just wants to live normally is what she thinks she wants. What she really wants to do, though, is live authentically, and throughout the book she figures out how to do that, and I think it's just absolutely so well written. And yeah, all the characters I love almost all the characters. I mean, obviously there are some that are not so good, but just I absolutely love their mother too by the end of the book. And yeah, she does her best, to understand things. And yeah. And I just read the companion book to this book, which came out this year. I just read it this past week, and oh my gosh, there's so much to talk about there. But I will save that probably for the next video. I might maybe just mention it again, though, at the end, because it is one of my favorites now. I forgot that the next book was another Sonora Reyes book. But here we are. September. My favorite read of September was The Proposal, also by Sonora Reyes. it's not a big surprise. Sonora Reyes is one of my favorite authors now. But yeah, it's this book. I think this one is probably the one I would say is my favorite out of the books I've read by Sonora Reyes. If I had to say though, which was the most like intensely like well written, I think I would probably say the newest one, which again I might mention at the end. But like out of my favorites, the one that made me feel the most comfortable maybe, or feel the most like feel the most excited about maybe, is The Proposal. So this one is, it's got our two main characters are roommates. They were roommates. And these two guys were roommates and best friends for a long, long time. One of them is employed. Well, he gets fired on the very first page, actually. So he gets fired from his job, but he was employed in a way that, like, he was allowed to stay in the country. Now that he is unemployed, he needs another way of staying in the country without being deported. These are two brown, Latino, there we go. I'm sorry, I was thinking of the Latin language endings, and Latinum is not Spanish ending. Okay, Latino. They are two Latino boys, both brown, both queer, and one of them's autistic as well. But yeah, one of them just got fired, and he needs to find a way quick to be able to stay in the country. And the other one just got out of a really toxic relationship. And that other one jokes, hey, if you need, like, a way of staying in the country, why don't we just get married? And so they do. At least they propose, and now they are like set to go through marriage and stuff. And initially, it's a fake marriage, which is against the law. So they have to essentially fake being in love, but it's actually not that hard for them given how close they are and how everybody was actually just waiting for them to get together this entire time. And so that, like, makes it easier. And just over the course of a lot of different events, they find, oh wow, maybe this isn't so fake after all. It's cute, it's sweet, it's wonderful, it's also heart and gut-wrenching, especially because the ex gets into play, and she's horrible. And also the workplace stuff is kind of horrible. And then there's the family relationships, which are actually really sweet and really cool. And the friendships are also really sweet and cool. But it's just so, it can get so intense at times, but the payoff at the end is so worth it. It's so good, it's so great. And the whole time I'm just rooting so much for these two. I think out of all the fictional, like, romances I have read, I think this is one of my absolute favorites. I love these two. Alright, just a little heads up, my cat is snoring now, so you might hear a little buzzing sound in the background. Don't worry about it, it's just him. If he's still here by the end of the video, I'll give you the cat tax of showing him. He is pretty cute. But yeah, October. So, this year it seems I've been rereading some of my favorites. And that includes the Insignia series by S.J. Kincaid. This was the science fiction series that got me into reading and writing science fiction. It still hits hard today. I'm yeah, I absolutely love this series. I also love the author. Like, she's super nice. I'm glad that I met her. And yeah, let me talk about this series though. I would say out of the 3 books, it's a trilogy. Out of the 3 books, I think Catalyst is my favorite, and that's the 3rd book. And I think that's just because everything really just like hyped up, and it just ended perfectly, I think. And so that's why it's like my favorite of the 3. So yeah, there's 3 books. Insignia is book 1, book 2 is Vortex, book 3 is Catalyst. So let me just talk about kind of the premise of the series. This is a book series that is set in the future during World War III, and by this point in time, there are a lot of like companies that have essentially taken over the world. There are taxes on water and food because of the technology, the nanobots or whatever that are in the food and water. So those corporations control a lot of stuff that they shouldn't, and it's very capitalistic. It's very horrible. And there's a war going on between them. So essentially the different companies endorse different countries. There's like one alliance that's like between the United States and India and a few other countries, and there's the alliances between like Russia and China and a few different countries. Those are the 2 sides of the war. And this war is fought in outer space with like spaceships. There are not people in them. There should be no casualties to this war except for robot parts and stuff. The war is fought in space for space because each of the 2 sides are looking for more planets, more asteroids, more locations to essentially just claim and to use and put their own stuff there. And there are these combatants that are recruited by the military. They are kids or teenagers. And the reason that the military needs kids or teenagers is because they tried it with adults and it did not work out well, because the technology needed to connect the human mind to be able to control the stuff in outer space, the spaceships and stuff that do all the fighting. That technology only really works with like a growing and developing mind, not with an adult brain. So that's why they have to use kids. And so we follow our main character who goes into military, kind of. It's a military adjacent thing, the combatant program, which trains the kids to fight like using the satellites and the robots and the spaceships and stuff. And remember, the capitalistic companies, they endorse this war, so they provide funding and stuff to the combatants. And our main character goes through that program. And that's essentially like the main premise set up, but there's so much that goes on throughout this series. As our main character grows up and learns more and goes up the ranks, not only are there really super funny moments and heartwarming moments between the main character and his friends, but there are some really super, super traumatizing moments for him, including something that is somewhat of like it happens not in the first book, but I think it's important to say because it involves disability representation. Tom, the main character, becomes disabled due to the villain doing something to him. So the main character becomes an amputee, which that's just like such a thing that doesn't happen in a lot of like mainstream or widely well-known books, weirdly enough. Like, the main character doesn't get disabled by the villain, which is kind of not that that's a requirement for like a villain to be formidable, but it just is odd how many books like stray away from disability. But I'm glad that this book series really like takes it on and takes it seriously, and even like eventually the main character becomes like is able to joke about it because that's part of who he is, and that's so relatable to like the disability community, I feel like, because it's not always so serious. Like, yeah, there's trauma around it and it makes things harder, your disability, but also there are some fun like inside jokes you can have about it. Like, that's how I feel about having DID. And so that's just, I love to see that. Where was I? I feel like I went on a tangent. Tangent again. Anyway, was there anything else I was gonna say about that? I think just it was really well done. I absolutely love the books. I think they still hold up, you know, and I guess just or when I say they still hold up, I mean they still hold up in terms of like how wonderful I remember them to be. I'm like, oh yeah, these are definitely wonderful. And it was really cool reading them again after several years, because I didn't remember most of the third book until I read it. So that was, my gosh, the villain is super formidable. If you want a formidable villain, read this series. He doesn't show up a lot in the first book, but he's set up. And then books 2 and 3, he's horrific. So yeah. For November, I would say Time and Time Again by Chatham Greenfield was my favorite of the books I read. And actually, this was an audiobook, because I wanted to get into audiobooks this year. Like, really, it was like the end of this year, more like, I wanted to start seeing if I could incorporate audiobooks into my day-to-day life. And, I found that to be a neat experience. I think I'll try it more. But the thing about this book is, it's like if you've seen Groundhog Day, it's kind of like that, and if you haven't seen Groundhog Day, then I'll describe it. It's a time loop story, where the main character wakes up on the same day every day. It's August 6th, every single day, for this character in this book. And she wakes up remembering all of the previous August 6th, but everybody around her does not remember, ever, like, reliving that over and over and over again. So she feels very isolated and alone. And on top of that, she's, like, having to deal every day with IBS, so having irritable bowel syndrome, and the symptoms from that. And also, if you want any more, like, representation notes, she's Jewish and she's queer. And she's going through August 6th just all the time, again and again. And so she does the same thing every single day, and she tries to make mental notes and research all kinds of things about time loops, physics and movies about it. Physics about it. You know what I mean? I think. She's doing all this research, but it doesn't seem to be getting her anywhere. And then, one of these days, she ends up kind of accidentally walking in front of the car that is owned by her sort of ex-friend / her crush, or her older crush, maybe. And so her crush accidentally kind of bumps into her with their car. And the crush, by the way, uses they, them pronouns, and is also Jewish, also queer, and also disabled. For their disability, I believe they have arthritis, and it's so severe in, like, their legs that they need a walking or sometimes a walker to be able to, like, get around easily. And so, you know what, let me just start using the names so that it's not confusing when I start using the pronouns. Our main character is Phoebe, and her crush, their name is Jess. So, Jess accidentally bumps into Phoebe just a little bit with their car, and the next day, Jess finds themselves in the time loop as well. So, Jess now remembers August 6th from here on out. And when the two realize, oh wow, we're both able to remember, cool, let's compare notes. Jess realizes that Phoebe's just been trying to live out every day the same way. And Jess goes, well, isn't that boring? If we have a time loop where there's no consequences, don't you want to, like, do more exciting things? And so that's what the book pretty much is them, like, going out of their comfort zones, doing exciting things. And it's really neat seeing their connection over time, because they're the only two that remember all of the things that are happening. But in addition, it's, like, kind of sad seeing them connect so much, but the two of them kind of disconnect from their friends and family, because the friends and family don't remember. And so, as a reader, we're reading this, and I feel like I have a little bit of heartbreak over Phoebe's parents and Jess's friends not remembering anything, and them just, like, re-meeting over and over again. But that's the thing with time loop books. I feel like I haven't read many. Actually, this might be my first one I've read. I've written one, not published yet, but it was very hard to write, to remember to keep everything consistent. But yeah, this book, I feel like time loop books especially just have this sort of this heartache in them, where, you know, when the main character remembers something, an experience and feelings and conversations and just all kinds of things that, like, another character just doesn't remember. And so I think it's just I feel like it's a very heartwarming story. Alright, I have a bit of a conundrum here, because I feel like all the books I read this month deserve the favorite spot. We've finally gotten to December, and I'm having a hard time because I haven't actually picked the book that I'm gonna put in the newsletter yet. I decided to wait until at least, you know, a few days from now. And I really don't know. I read 4 books. Well, I mean, I've posted about 4 books that I really enjoyed this month, and I'm having a hard time picking one for, like, the top spot. So, at the risk of taking too much time, I'm gonna try to breeze through all 4 of them. So I read 2 books by Kat Cho, Wicked Fox and Vicious Spirits. They're companion novels, so they take place in the same universe, and they, you know, have essentially kind of the same plot arc. The main thing about this is that these 2 books are set in modern-day Seoul, Korea, South Korea, and it's got supernatural stuff in it. So the main character is Agumio, a 9-tailed fox, and she is discovered by this boy, June, and she goes, oh no, I want to hide my identity, keep my secret, please. And so he does. And she thinks she's never going to see him again, but turns out, since she's new in town, she's been moving around a lot with her mom. She is enrolled now at the same school as June, so they get to know each other, and a lot of stuff happens with the supernatural dangers around them, and yeah, so just a lot of supernatural danger going on. Same thing with the second book, although there's a different conflict related to that because there are now ghosts wandering around the earth because there's a rip in the veil between, like, mortal world and ghost world. So that's kind of the main problem of the second book that they address. And there's just like, there's just so much, there's so much good about this. I think it feels like a K-drama, so if that's a plus in your book, that's what I'll say about that. And I love how the romance, well, both the romantic relationships that are depicted in the two books, both the romances are super strong and believable. And for the first book, I absolutely love how long the romance stretches out for and how long it takes for the characters to trust each other and get to know each other. And in the second book, I absolutely love the intensity of the romance. Yeah. Okay, so that's those two books. My third favorite, well, I shouldn't say, like, I'm not putting these in any particular order except the order that I read them in. So, the next book I'm going to talk about of my favorites for this month is Hazelthorn by C.G. Drews. Again, another C.G. Drews book. They're one of my favorite authors as well. Hazelthorn has just as much, botanical horror as Don't Let the Forest In. It's got as much gut-wrenching queer romance as Don't Let the Forest In. This one, though, in addition, has a lot of autistic rage. It's got so much about, like, not being able to control your own body and not having autonomy over your own life. Especially with just, like, other people working so hard to, like, keep you from doing anything on your own. Now, with all that said, the premise is pretty much like the main character is a guy or a teenage guy, 17 years old, who's been pretty much locked up in his room in this giant estate. He's been locked up there for about 7 years now, ever since the guy he liked tried to kill him. As what happens to somebody sometimes, I guess. So, the main character, suddenly his guardian dies, and so he inherits the entire estate and the wealth of his guardian. And now all the family members are now hounding him, hoping for some of the wealth. But the main character just wants to stay on the estate. He feels connected to the garden for some reason. This big garden that's kind of spooky and got kind of some mysteriousness about it. And with good reason. Oh my gosh, I have not read a book where the garden was used in such a way, or where a garden has been used in such a way before. It's horrific, and it's a great plot twist. Well, multiple plot twists, actually. The reveals were so well done on this book. Even at, like, the halfway point, the thing that was going on, I had no idea was what was happening. And just, the main character ends up accidentally running into a bunch of secrets and also on purpose investigates, thinking that his guardian was killed on purpose, or, murdered. So, he's investigating and finding out a lot of things about his family that he really probably didn't want to know, sort of. Not just about his family, but about himself, who he is relative to just, like, everybody else, and more about the estate itself, and yeah, it's a lot. And also, there is an interesting romance. I love these two together, by the way. They match each other's freak so well. Yeah. And now finally, I haven't made a video on this one yet. Technically, though, I did read it this year because I read it this past week. But I will, get the video out for next week, I think. Which is The Golden Boy's Guide to Bipolar by Sonora Reyes. And, I'll save like the whole like going deep dive into it for the video where I talk about the book, but just I'll just talk about kind of some of the things about it. It hits so hard. There's so much about mental health in this book, and I saw so many of the signs, so many of the telltale signs of the main character is going through so much with depression and mental health and feeling isolated and afraid to sound crazy, so he doesn't reach out for help. Oh, it's so relatable. At least to my experience. It's such a hard-hitting book. And it's the companion novel to The Lesbiana's Guide to Catholic School. So, if you remember, I mentioned Yamilet had a brother named Cesar. He's the main character of this book. He gets all good grades because school's really just easy for him, and he's, now slightly, like, feeling better about being, he's queer as well as Yamilet, so he's at least out to his mother, or to his family, but he's really, really struggling because he really is devoutly Catholic, and he's getting a lot of bad advice from Catholic people. He's getting a lot of bad advice from them about how he's choosing to be queer and how that's the wrong choice, and it's so horrible, and it leads to him making so many horrible decisions. This is a book that shows just how much people really have an effect on other people, because it's just, I really want to get into it, but I think I'm gonna have to save it. I'm gonna have to save all the deep diving into it for later. But it's such a well-written book. It's so impactful, and I'm so glad I read it. Yeah. And I mean, there's some humor in it. There's, some funny parts, but it's just, there's so much there's so much intensity to it that really just reminds you of how serious mental illness is, or mental conditions are. It's not just like a quirky difference about somebody, it really affects somebody's life, and especially if they're not around people who understand, or who are at least like trying to understand or be supportive. Yeah. I really like how The Therapist was written also, just as a little note. So, yeah, I was the whole time going, no, do not listen to the Catholic priest, please listen to the therapist, the atheist therapist. And it just, yeah. This book, intense. And I don't know which of these 4 books I'm gonna put as, like, my favorite, in the newsletter. I don't know. We're gonna see. Feel free to sign up for that newsletter, by the way. It's just kind of a goofy little, once a month I'll put out a newsletter, at the end of the month, and it just has, like, 3 major things that I did that month related to my writing, and then it'll have, like, my favorite book of the month, a book recommendation at the end of the email, where I highlight kind of the major points of what I loved about the book, and also a little blurb. Yeah, that's where you'll see, like, my favorites if you want to see them early instead of at the, end of the year recap like this. But yeah, that's December, so that's the end. Wow. Okay, so this did take a little longer than I meant it to, but we'll see where the final video time ends up being. hope you don't mind that it's maybe gonna be longer than my videos recently. But I think this was a good experience of just having fun going through my favorite books of the past year, because some of these books have been, it's been months since I read a lot of these, and I'm going, oh wow, I read that this year. This year, really? This year has gone by, both so quickly, and also it feels so far away, those months back. I'm super happy with where I am right now, and I'm looking forward to reading more awesome books next year. Yeah, there's so many that are on my to be read, and there's so many that are going to come out next year too, so I think it's hopefully going to be a good year for reading, especially because now I'm feeling a little more consistent and feeling more confident in my reading capability, since school kind of messed up my reading confidence, well, specifically high school and college, I should say, because they assigned so many things that I couldn't do everything. I was already losing sleep, so there wasn't much else I could do. Anyway, that's enough from me, though. I am curious if you have gotten this far into the video and you're still awake or listening. I'm curious, what are your favorite books from 2025? Maybe I'll add some to my to-be-read pile. And, also just like a good time for you to reflect maybe of what books you loved and why, and maybe like share some so that